The John and Ken Show. John Cobell and Ken Shampoo.
I don't think we've talked about a story involving your tax money that has been as clear as this one, full of detail and nuance on our side as to why the high-speed rail is the biggest boondoggle perhaps in the history of public work projects. And what does the other side say? But it's high-speed rail, and it'll bring jobs, and it's good for the environment, and there's going to be lots of traffic, and we can't keep building freeways. That's their argument, beginning and ending.
You know what?
We can tell you how much it's going to cost, how it's got way overages on the cost, how few people end up riding it. I mean, we have all the facts on our side. This is just like, no, it's good.
Well, you know what? This idea, and it's prevalent, that the government should spend hundreds of billions of dollars building things that we don't need to create short-term construction jobs has got to stop.
That's exactly what it is.
You do not build a functioning long-term economy by having people gather in the desert. Why don't we just send everybody to the desert and have them build 100-story skyscrapers? Let's build 1,000 100-story skyscrapers in the desert so we can create hundreds of thousands of construction jobs. Now,
then we can send the Occupy people to live there.
Yeah, you laugh at that. But it's the same thing with this high-speed rail. The reason you don't spend billions of dollars building office towers in the desert is no one's going to go there.
Over the long run, even though you will have construction jobs created because somebody has to go to the desert and build the buildings, there's no one ever going to live there. In the long term, it's going to be a huge, colossal failure. That's what we're talking about.
So these short-term construction jobs and the ancillary jobs are not worth anything. What you need to do is have the private investors. You let the private market, the collective wisdom of everybody who has money to burn, you let them decide what to invest in, and then you make it easy for the business owners who get this investment money to create their business. Whether it's a factory or a hamburger stand or an office building, whatever it is. And you take away all these crazy-ass restrictions that just suffocate business in California. That's the only thing the government can do is get out of the bleeping way. And then, and here's the thing, and I don't understand why people don't get this. If you have a climate where it's easy to build business, the business owners then hire people. You have jobs. It creates tax revenue, and then the tax revenue can be spent by the moron politicians on all their stupid programs. But they will never get money to spend on their stupid programs unless they create a robust business climate. It's impossible. It's never going to happen. And I don't understand why they don't get it. You want a lot of tax money? Fine. I'll concede that point. Have your tax money. So why don't you create a business climate that throws off the tax money that you can then waste? Instead, they're obsessed with this high-speed rail line that's going to start nowhere, go nowhere, and carry no people and never make profits.
So here's the timeline for this. By October of 2012, in order to secure the $3.5 billion of funding promised by the Obama people, they have to start construction. And they're now committed to this Central Valley segment, just north of Bakersfield to just south of Merced, 130 miles. That's what they want to start building. Now, the legislature will have a chance early next year to kill this. Will that happen? Jerry Brown is awful. He just assigned 2 new members to this high-speed rail commission. They're the ones that came out with this revised business plan along with the other members who had already been on the commission. And Jerry Brown apparently issued a press release that he likes what he hears. So he's not going to fight this. Well, will the legislature overturn this? I don't know.
$100 billion? That's like 10 years' worth of illegal alien expenses. It's a tremendous amount of money here. It's like 10 years' worth of prison expenses.
Well, the first up is the $5 billion to build this 130-mile segment. They're going to take the $3.5 billion that Obama is handing them, along with the part of the $9 billion from the bond measure that 2 people voted for, and they're going to say they're going to put 100,000 people to work in the Central Valley. And you notice the timing of this, October of 2012, Obama would like to be out on the stump, particularly in places like California, and say, we got people back to work.
Yeah.
He'll hold a shovel in the air. Yeah. They're building a high-speed rail line which will change transportation in California.
Like they did for Solyndra.
Well, yeah, it's a good point.
This is a Solyndra 20-fold. No, No, this is a Solyndra 200-fold.
Yeah, Solyndra is $535 million.
$535 million. This is 200 times the cost of the Solyndra debacle, and it's the same thing. The way they set up Solyndra in order to give Obama a public appearance to promote his green ideology. Same thing here. They're going to start blowing money so that he has a big campaign stop in October 2012. This is crazy. This is crap. There ought to be a referendum on the ballot to stop them from borrowing the $9 billion.
So here are their ridership numbers in their new report. They're claiming that anywhere from 7.5 million to 10.8 million people will ride the high-speed rail by 2025. And they claim that even if they're at the low end of those numbers, they'll still have a net operating profit of over $350 million a year. How much will it cost? The average ticket between San Francisco and L.A., they claim, would cost $81.
That's impossible. John Kupal said it would have to cost $300.
Besides, I don't even think 81's a bargain.
No, seriously,
they say it's a 3-hour trip.
How can you assume 7 million people are going to board this train? Based on what? How do you...
Now, there are a lot of ways that they rob you of your tax money, and the DREAM Act is one example. But probably there is none bigger a robbery than I'm talking about than what could turn into the spending of your tax money on the California high-speed rail line.
I am astonished. It seems every day we get
learn
another
more. Yeah,
we told you originally that they came up with a $98.5 billion figure, and I likened it to you go to a retail store and they're selling you something for $5.99 because it sounds better than $6.
Uh-huh.
There was a reason it came in just under $100 billion to make it sound cheaper. Well, the other day there was a story that if you read the authority's new business plan of the high-speed rail authority's plan, they admit, well, it actually might be $117 billion.
Yeah, another $19 billion got thrown in there. I mean, 98.5 got in the news, but apparently in the fine print of their business plan were possible extra $19 billion worth of spending, which could bring the total price tag to over $117 billion.
So that's the real amount of money that they're admitting to. Then another piece of information came out over the weekend. Richard White, who's a professor of history at Stanford University, and he's the author of a book called Railroaded, The Transcontinentals and the Making of Modern America. So he's a railroad expert. You know, he's studied this. That's what he does. He looked at the business plan and found out not only was there an extra $20 billion that they tucked away at the bottom of the report in the fine print.
He writes, the authority is offering us less for more. The original system included Sacramento and San Diego. Well, they're not part of the estimate. Did you hear that? They're not part of the $117.6 billion estimate that we just got hit with last week.
So they're going to build a train from Bakersfield to Merced. They're not going to build train track to go to San Diego and Sacramento. Only two of the four most important cities in the state. I mean, that would add even more billions on top of the $117 billion. In fact, he quotes an estimate that it may be $180 billion before this is all over. So now we've gone from $34 billion when they asked us to agree to borrowing, $34 billion to $180 billion, almost 6 times as much money.
Now, we'll get back to Richard White's take on this, and we'll move over for a moment to the Orange County Register, which had 2 reporters, Ronald Campbell and Lance Williams, take a look at this. And let's go back to talk about the first section of track that they will build. If they get their way by October of next year, they have to, in order to qualify for the federal stimulus money that's being waved at them, it's over $3.5 billion, they have to start construction somewhere. So they've chosen what we've all laughingly called the train to nowhere. That is the Bakersfield to Chowchilla link, which is 130 miles. Well, according to the Register researchers, you can call it a train to nowhere, but it won't actually have a train. There is no money in the budget for that to be high-speed rail. The backup plan is to let Amtrak run its heavy 79-mile-per-hour engines on the new tracks. That will shave off 45 minutes off of the 2.5-hour run between Bakersfield and Fresno. In other words, that section's not high-speed rail.
So can you see the trains just packed with humanity? Bakersfield to Fresno, Fresno to Bakersfield, every day. Just thousands and thousands of people jamming into these trains.
It won't be high-speed, though.
No.
So the first segment that they're planning is not actually a high-speed rail segment, which I also did not know, and which is also going to make it more difficult for them to get private investors to step up, because after they complete that segment, even if they are profitable, some of the investors are going to go, well, we don't know anything yet. That's not actually high-speed rail. That's just a regular rail line that you're using. That's like taking, Amtrak between those cities. High-speed rail is supposed to go over 200 miles an hour. That's what people are supposed to save time.
You know what? Every bit of news about this high-speed rail,
it's worse and worse.
Makes it worse and worse. Everything, every detail makes you go, what? They didn't mention that before. They didn't tell us that before. This is really a scam of Bernie Madoff proportions.
Yeah, I mean, we're up to a possible price tag for the actual full, complete high-speed rail system, which, again, San Diego includes up to Sacramento and over to San Francisco, possibly $180 billion. And let's go back to this analogy. You hired someone to build you a house 3 years ago, and they told you, it's going to cost about $300,000. And they came back to you 3 years later and said, it's going to cost $900,000. And now they're telling you it might cost like $1.3 million. Wouldn't you just send them packing? I mean, seriously? Would they have any credibility? Yet we're supposed to believe this high-speed rail board and say, sure, go ahead, sell those bonds and do what you have to do to raise the money. We need this high-speed rail, even if it is going to cost like 5-6 times what you originally told us.
I don't even want to hear the debate about this. You know there's going to be all kinds of officials and idiot politicians who are going to try to spin this. There is no spinning this. It doesn't go from $34 billion to $180 billion. It doesn't go where they bury an extra 20% in the fine print so nobody finds out about it for a week. Oh, and by the way, we cut off Sacramento and San Diego. Get out of here. Out.